and PR departments. Mr. Alistar, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. Good morning, everyone. And although we are in very difficult situation here in Indonesia, we are talking about the right subject today. We're talking about the circular economy and building back better. Today's specific topic is about the green procurement and supply chain, which is far more important than people realize. I'm Alistair Spears. Despite my CV in insurance and in publishing, I'm also very much involved in the sustainability business through our MVP division. It's very important to know what the importance of green procurement is. Look, the green supply chain is something which extends beyond the organization, going back into the entire processes of purchasing, the manufacturing, materials management, distribution, reverse logistics. But what we don't really always appreciate is the conflict between efficiency, pricing, and supplies. Now, that's what really drives the economy. And this is what's driven us to have very ungreen supply chains, because consumers want things which are affordable. They want things which are easily achieved. And that's what manufacturers and agricultural suppliers have done. They've made efficiencies. So what we're looking at now is trying to get procurement which focused on the whole green aspect, following the principles of the circular economy and supporting the way in which we make things better. Now, we have a lot of conflicts here in Indonesia, which includes things like the ethics of development. Just because you have environmentally sound principles, sometimes those are socially not sound. So we've actually been looking at this whole thing. We've got a lot of different aspects to take into account, which I'm very concerned about, to be honest. I'm looking forward to the expertise brought to our arguments today by our speakers. A very quick example, I mean, a wonderful old expression is garbage in, garbage out, which applies to almost everything we do. But remember, if you are getting the wrong raw materials, no matter how good your manufacturing process is, you are condemned to having a non-sustainable product. If your land on which your agriculture is being grown has been, let's just be blunt about it, stolen from the community, that you'll never have a sustainable supply. So we've got a whole bunch of not just practical, but moral, ethical, environmental, and social aspects to look at in the green supply chain. Unfortunately, I don't have to answer them. My expert speakers are the ones who are going to be addressing those. And I have not 4, but only 3 speakers today. We lost somebody in transit, which is unfortunate. But we have 3 excellent speakers. Our first speaker, I'm going to introduce them in full now, and then we'll go back to them one by one later. Our first speaker is Pak Karyanto Wibowo, a very well-known figure in the whole sustainability sector. He is the chairman of PRAISE, Packaging and Recycling Alliance for Indonesia, Sustainable Environment. And they have a vision to bring a circular economy to life in Indonesia and have done the first practical steps. He's also the Director of Sustainable Development of Danone Indonesia, Head of Sustainability Working Group in Eurocham, and a B Corp movement builder in Indonesia. So his credentials are without question. Besides his corporate life, Pak Karyanto actively engages in inclusive education for vulnerable communities by founding a school for the children of waste pickers in Bantar Gebang landfill area, which is a very sad area, which Pak Karyanto, thank you very much for looking at them. Looking after them. I've been there, I've seen it, it's tragic, and it's still going, which is even sadder, despite all of the efforts. You've got 250 students there at the moment. You're going to be talking, about all the things you know about already and bringing everybody up to date. How have you managed this? How has praise got involved in this? What are you doing to make things better? Pak Karyanto, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alistair. Pleased to meet you here. So, allow me, everyone, to represent Praise Packaging Recycling Association for Indonesia Sustainable Environment, which is founded by six FMCG, I would say, in Indonesia. It's Coca-Cola, Danone, Nestle, Indofood Tetra Pak, and also Unilever. So we are going to share here is more about the what we are doing as Press actually, how we support green procurement and also the green supply chains. Of course, I'm not telling the entire supply chain story. I think Alistair already mentioned before on actually what possible, what we can do on the supply chain part, on the green recovery, I would say, but I will focus more on the packaging. Okay, so let me see if I can, okay, request for Zoom control. Okay, all right. So hello. Okay. All right. So I will start with the the contact as well. I mean, this is something which is publicly available, which is in the what will be the global risk in the future. I think this is prior to COVID. No? I know it's going to change because of COVID, but you see there was a trend uh, since 2017 up to 2020, even up to now, where the environment topic is becoming in the top of mind of the society. So we are talking about the climate change, on the weather, even in Indonesia, weather is now is every day is raining or perhaps unpredictable. Farmers bit confusing. What happening is not there is no pattern like before. Natural disaster, biodiversity, and also the environmental damage by human. And then of course, because we are talking about the circular economy, especially on packaging, so. I mean, this is something that also in the top of our mind as well, which is plastic entering to the oceans. There will be more plastic in the oceans by 2050 if we do nothing. There are so many environmental impact because of the plastic packaging, which is mismanaged, microplastic topics, etc. and so forth. So I would say the plastic is always in everyday conversation, which is really becoming the attention of everyone. So I take some numbers and data from the research done by the Ellen MacArthur and also PEW Foundations and some others. So basically, this is what is happening in 2040 if we do nothing. So if the business as usual, basically there will be more plastic leakage to the oceans 3 times, from 11 million tons to 29 million tons by 2040. And then, of course, I mentioned before the microplastic exposure. Excuse me. And of course, at the same time, also the significant increase of the virgin plastic production, which is going to be nearly 400 million metric ton, which is taking from our finite resources, which is oil. So therefore, I think we all agree that it is a time to shift the plastic paradigm. It is a time to really take the significant actions to address this issue. Of course, how to address it is not going to be happen if we do it partially. We have to do it systematically. We have to do it in more comprehensive way. There is no single solution fit to all purpose. So therefore, the research describe very nicely on how we should take actions, starting on reduce the consumption, reduce the plastic usage, and then how we substitute We need to innovate to find many different substitute. Can be paper. I know there is some controversy as well on paper, but we need to, if we talk about paper, then how we really make sure that the packaging made from paper has also sustainably produced. We need to redesign our packaging. How we make sure that the packaging that we design will be fully recyclable, easy to be recycled. And then how we scale up the collection, because this is one of our major challenge in Indonesia because of the infrastructure, lack of infrastructure, the collection is very low. So how we scale up collection? After being collected, what we are going to do? So we need to increase the capacity of recycling. We need to double or quadruple according to NPAP, the recycling capacity. We need to develop plastic to plastic conversion. What does it mean? We need to develop chemical recycling to convert low value plastic, non-recyclable plastic, to be able to be upcycled, becoming higher value plastic. And then we need to make sure that we dispose properly, because we have to realize still there are some packaging which is completely difficult to be recycled. And then also we need to manage also the cross-boundary export import of the plastic waste, because there are so many incidents where many plastic coming from the developed country coming to low collection country like us in Indonesia. We need to reduce also maritime source, because 20% of plastic marine pollution is coming from the marine activity. So if we really do this kind of a systemic approach, we should be able to take also the benefit in terms of the economics, in terms of the job creations, in terms of the CO2 impact, emission reduction, etc. and so forth. So this is the approach that we have to take. Now I go to Indonesia. So this is Indonesia. I take from the Bappenas research, working together with Norway, I have not mistaken, or Denmark, and also with the UNDP. So what happened in our packaging in 2030? So basically, definitely because of the growing of the consumers, because our economy is growing, because of also the urbanizations, people is working in the area where they have more possibility to work, increase of the populations, then this will create the incremental of packaging waste, which is from now 5.3, or even now is even more, and becoming 7.5 million in 2030. So this is the reality. However, from the research, I think this is quite interesting, and this is for us as PRIS, this is something that possible that we do if we really do it systematically together to bend the curve from the business as usual, so that we are able to reduce the plastic waste of 36% by 2030. So what we need to do pretty much similar. We need to reduce and reuse plastic packaging. There are some numbers over there that you can read in terms of the percentage. We need to replace to more sustainable packaging. We need to redesign our packaging, and we need to increase the recycling rate. So this is what we need to do by 2020 to achieve the target. And then this is the economical impact for Indonesia. It's quite significant. If we do this kind of a circular economy model, as I mentioned before, there is a potential of $1 billion US of the impact of the net economic, and then representing 0.5% of sector GDP, and creating the potential of more than 100,000 net jobs by 2030. So, and then of course the CO2 impact, which is potentially about 55.2 million reduction in CO2, as well as the save of the water that we can save because of this approach. So now we talk about the trend. Why now the circular economy is becoming trend? I know that, okay, because of the pressure, because of we see ourselves the problem in the environment, but there are many drivers that actually why at the end we push for this direction. The first is degradation of natural resources, which is we understand. The price volatility, supply chain risk. This is mostly the industry. The industry understand why this volatility happen. What is the potential supply chain risk if we don't do this kind of approach? With the new technology, there are many new technology available. Ibu Nani mentioned about the waste to energy, but for us also the recycling technology, chemical recycling. There are so many technology available to boost the circular economy. The consumers, I think now there is a trend that consumers start understand about this and then start accepting on the more environmentally friendly product. And then also the urbanization I just mentioned before, the capital to support investment. There are many potential investment available. Ibu Marsita mentioned also about the support of the government on the investment. Labor shift on the labor in the market. Now the last one is basically the regulatory shift. The regulatory is already start being established by the government, starting with the law 18/2008 until the Ministry of Environment of 75. The regulatory is now available, which is now we are talking also about the topic on the green procurement, where this is something that we need to push further about the green procurement. Why it is important? Because we believe that the green procurement is a key for the circular economic growth. You can also read in my slide, there are 4 elements that basically why it is important. From the political perspective, it is kind of the effective way to demonstrate the government commitment on the environment protection and sustainable consumption and production, then means supporting the SDGs. On the environmental impact, definitely pushing the green procurement will help achieving the environmental target. I believe we as a country, we have many environmental targets. We already signed on the COP21. We set the target on the climate change. We committed as part of the UN on the plastic waste kind of a commitment. And then, of course, kind of a example of the consumers, and then also the raise awareness as part of the educational to the public, because this is very important as part of the behavior change for the community. Economics, no doubt, the economics definitely with the green procurement also we expect having the incentive for industry to innovate, because there is a new market, new potential market for industry to enter, which is more sustainable material, where it is being facilitated, promoted by the government, so that industry will really support and go to this direction. Social and health, definitely, because this will improve the quality of life directly or indirectly of the community, and also the environmentally performance standard. And then now we go back to industry. So basically, this is the research. This is not something which is coming out of the blue. Basically, most of the company actually strongly willing to engage on this topic. You see from the numbers. And then some actually already doing something. I just give some of the initiative done by press member, how we promote the recycling, how we increase the recyclability of the packaging, how we change the material, etc., and so forth. But what interesting as well for the company, for the industry, what is the driver? Why we interest in understanding about this topic? First, we want to reduce the environmental impact. The second one is, of course, it will build the credibility and also build our brand image. Because this is key, because at the end, this is we are private sector, we are a business. We have to push for growth, but sustainable growth. It is an opportunity for new markets. It is a response to the government regulation, etc., and so forth. So there are many elements why industry is willing to engage with this topic. I think this is quite a good sign. this is kind of a proof point globally. This is actually 2018 in Bali, where over 400 company, I think now is even more, committed on the new plastic economy, where in this case organized by Ellen MacArthur, we commit to eliminate on plastic that we don't need, so unnecessary plastic. We innovate to plastic that our packaging will be reusable, recyclable, and compostable, and then push for the circularity to ensure that there is no plastic leakage to the environment. This is basically our commitment. And then you can also see the the report, because we are trying to be transparent and also track the progress. We are not there yet, but I think we are progressing. There are many companies, they just take the top 10 and also I would say top 20 of the company on where they are in terms of the commitment. So you can see the progress by the company. And of course, we as an industry, we do our best because it is commitment, it is a public commitment to achieve our ambitions. And then now I go back to Indonesia. So Indonesia, of course, we need to support our commitment as part of the global commitment. And then we in Indonesia, through press, we just established the PRO, Packaging Recovery Organization. It is kind of an industry coalitions to support government in solving the waste problem in the comprehensive and collective manner, because we believe that if we do it alone, we are not going to be able to give a significant impact. So with this PRO, we hope that we are able to support the circular economy in Indonesia, increase collection, reducing leakage. Some company already got already have kind of a circularity and neutrality target. We will be actively involved in the regulatory on ESR, EPR to make sure that we are really treated fair among brands and also the producer. So, and then this is kind of an activity. So we just started, launched 2020. So we just started initiative to collect, packaging waste in Bali and East Java. Of course, this is kind of a just starting point. We have a big ambition, and of course, we want to have more companies joining. We have one new members yesterday. So I believe there are hundreds or thousands of companies where we can really work together in this particular topic. Nevertheless, of course, it is not, always easy to really push on this topic. There are many challenges. The challenges, this is also from the research. We are talking about what lacking of infrastructures, the behavior of the consumers, data, informations, lack of capital, not profitable. We can discuss later. I'm part of the business. I really understand the P&L. But of course, it is not just stopping here. So again, we commit to support the growth of green procurement, green supply chain in Indonesia, because we believe, as I mentioned before, drive for innovation. Industry see this as an opportunity. This will also help Indonesian government on financial saving, because we are not only see from the low price, but we see from the total cost. We see from the full life cycle. We are going to address the environment challenge, reduce greenhouse emissions, waste, etc., and so forth. And then, of course, together we should be able to implement the environmental standard on the green product, and then so that this will boost and also inspire government, at the end also inspire the public at large on implementing the green procurement practice. I think that's all. I'll start my presentation. Of course, we cannot do it alone, so we have to do it together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Karyanto. An excellent presentation, which is going to lead to a lot more questions, of course. And it's a very complex thing, especially in an industry as which Praise Group are in, which relies on this magic thing called plastic, because we can't contain cleanly and efficiently without plastic, but that has all of the attendant difficulties of the whole supply chain, and especially, as you said, the use of virgin resources to make plastic. So the recycling becomes part of this whole green procurement. And well, when I was a young lad, we never had plastic bottles, and every bottle was recycled by young schoolboys and girls who took them back to the bottling plant and got threepence for a bottle. That's going to be difficult nowadays, but these are the sort of incentives that we still have to go back to. But the way in which you and your group are approaching this, a research-based, data-based, science-based, is very good. But I come back to the problem of consumer acceptance, where the consumer still says, I want to pay less. And I don't know if I care about the unknown difficulties in your supply chain. So we've got a long way to go in consumer awareness as well, have we not? But you brought up the problems, the challenges, and I know that you're addressing them conscientiously and very well. We'll get lots of questions, no doubt, later on all of this, and you've answered many of them before, so we're ready for them. Our next speaker is coming in, is a recording from an expert, author of The Blue Economy, Mr. Gunter Pauli. He is an entrepreneur, pedagogue, and author. He pioneers innovations and creates new and disruptive business models. He accompanied over 200 projects over the past quarter of a century. It's a lot, translating ideas with solid science into vision implemented to entrepreneurship. These initiatives have evolved into 3 unicorns, that's amazing, and dozens of demonstrations on how to transform society. Gunter adheres to a philosophy summarized in his book, The Blue Economy, which was published in 2010, translated into 50 languages. He proposes to avoid dividing opinions centered around the for or against. His latest book, The Economy of Happiness, is based on successful implementation of game-changing businesses and outlines underlying principles that establish the successful pursuit of health and happiness. Linking happiness and health to the economy. I like it. What a great way to start. Let's hear what Gunter has to say. Now, he's not going to be around for the question and answer. That's going to be taken up by Pat Jeffrey, but let's listen to what Gunter has to say now.
It is a pleasure to share a few words from Croatia in Europe with our friends from the Blue Economy Foundation, who are organizing the 4th Circular Economy Forum. I have had a pleasure of participating in several of the previous events organized by the Blue Economy Foundation, and therefore on this occasion permit me to share with you some of my reflections on health, resilience and financing. I think that the last year and a half, the last 2 years nearly, have taught us that our economy needs much more than merely to be efficient and competitive. It is of high importance that we elevate the concept of resilience as one of the key components of our competitiveness. And resilience cannot be dissociated from health. And health means that we are concerned about our health, but also that we are concerned about the health of the planet. All of these initiatives that we want to undertake, on the other hand, have one very tough reality check. And that reality check is to know how much money, how much financing is required and needed, but how much can be mobilized in a competitive way in order to combine resilience and health at the heart, at the core of a circular economy, particularly if it is to evolve towards what I have named in 2009 the Blue Economy. To remind you, the Blue Economy starts from the very simple premise that we cannot continue competing on the basis of low cost, economies of scale, supply chain management, global sourcing, global markets. We know all too well that when we have to compete and be as cheap as the Bangladeshis or the Brazilians, that the only way to achieve this is, if I may use the word, by cheating. It means that you have to cheat on the social side, you have to cheat on the ecological side, and most likely you're even not paying taxes in order to be able to achieve that enormous challenge to be competitive on price with everyone. Even large countries like Indonesia have a hard time to engage into this bold economic performance that is driven by globalization and low costs. Low costs means, unfortunately, that we are not able to pay sufficient to the people in order to lift them to middle class, that we have to sacrifice the health of our planet and even the health of our people. As a result, I developed in the beginning of 2000, on the basis of dozens of concrete experiences, the concept of the blue economy. And the blue economy has one very concrete focus. We use what we locally have. And the focus is not on merely be competitive on price. Our focus is first and foremost on generating more value with what we have. Now, if you generate more value, then you can also employ more people, then you can engage more communities, then you can have money circulate into the local economy, and then you have what economists are very well acquainted with, then you have a multiplier effect. If you rely on supply of the ingredients and the intelligence and the creativity of the local communities, then indeed you're also building up resilience. If money is circulating faster in the local economy, then there are more opportunities to strengthen that resilience. Now, resilience is a key concept that economists have overlooked over the past decades. Now, resilience means the capacity to continue to operate and to continue to safeguard the basic needs and respond to the basic needs of everyone with what is locally available. That means we're able to provide drinking water, quality food, healthcare, housing, renewable energies, and we are generating jobs. A society that has full employment, a society that has drinking water and food guaranteed based on local resources. A society where energy is renewable and local, and where renewable energies are base load and not just peak load, like when the sun shines, then you have power, or the wind blows, then you have power. You need to have renewable energies that provide you power all the time. When you have these conditions, then resilience is met. But health is another very key component. I remind always our Indonesian friends that when we organized the World Congress on Zero Emissions in Indonesia in 1996, where the host was Minister Sarwono Kusumatmadja, who was then the Minister of Environment, that the minister specifically wanted us to organize that event in Indonesia, in Jakarta, in order to demonstrate that Indonesia has the capacity to respond to its own needs with what it has. And that Indonesia could certainly focus on the local resources to have a full employment locally. The vision of Minister Sarwono at the time has been very much inspired by my very first visits to Indonesia back in the 1980s, when I was invited by Adam Malik, who was then the Vice President of Indonesia. I have had a chance to visit many islands and many regions, and I have been very impressed by the opportunities that have been created all around. But the key is, as we mentioned, health. We presented at the World Congress in 1996 the case of Las Gaviotas, a village that had been redeveloped around an area that had been completely deforested by the Spaniards 250 years ago, and where we succeeded in regenerating the local biodiverse forests. But the regeneration of forest is not enough. Also, thanks to the exploitation of the turpentine and the resin from the pine trees, the tropical pine trees that were part of the regeneration of the forest, we were able to build the colophone industry, and we produced local fuel based on turpentine, while developing a range of activities around the forest that secured food. But we had also health as a top priority. For example, everyone in and around the regeneration of the forest project had free access to 3 liters of drinking water a day. And the very surprising small element, but very critical over time, was that any child at the age of 6 would receive a bicycle for free. That was the birthday present of the community. Now, if you're riding the bike every day and you're drinking 3 liters of drinking water every day, then you are healthy. We have been able to engage the local communities on a crusade to be healthy, to eliminate obesity, to eliminate diabetes, to eliminate all the typical modern illnesses by focusing squarely on one purpose: be healthy. Now, we succeeded in this endeavor to the point that we had to close the local hospital for lack of patients. Now, this is the kind of vision that I would like to bring to you in Indonesia on the occasion of this 4th Congress on the Circular Economy, organized by the Blue Economy Foundation. There should be no doubt that if we set clear targets, be it zero emissions, be it achieving full employment, or be it achieving the health for everyone, and ensuring that we have the resilience, then the financing will evolve. And as we highlighted already in the World Congress that was so well organized by Minister Sarwono, also at that moment our focus was on the financing. Now, the financing, we have to be creative. If you're solely asking financing for being able to distribute water for free, I know and you know that this will cost a lot of money. If on the other hand, we are securing that there's a regeneration of the forest, while thanks to the forest we're having more rainfall and the water is dripping and is filtering through the soil, then we have filtered drinking water locally available, which is of a high quality. And when that water, a byproduct of the forest and a byproduct of the industrialization, leads to a healthier population, then we have a higher productivity. But the main source of financing that we always insist on, the main source of financing is that you have a piece of land where there is no forest, a piece of land where there is no water, a piece of land where there is no sustainability, no future. That piece of land has no value. But if you have a piece of land that is regenerating the biodiversity of the forest, as we have succeeded in Colombia with 12,000 hectares having more than 250 species of plants, when you regenerate the biodiversity, have local industry developed, have productivity rising, have healthy living conditions, what is the value of the land? The land value includes the fact that you are healthy living there, that there is a resilience in the local economy, and therefore this is reflected in the price per hectare. We are happy to report at your Congress as one of the key messages that you need to look at the value of the land, and you need to reorganize the economic model to the point that you're able to bring water, food, jobs, health, and of course local energy to the people. And you do that in a way that there is resilience. And the financing will be viable because you're able to generate your own value added. Now, the most stable value added that I believe as an economist we recognize is the value of land. And the value of land is determined by the capacity to provide not only the financing or the sales or the production that the land is securing, but also the resilience. The more resilience you have and the more health you have, the more valuable your land is getting. I think to this event, with my short intervention, sending it to you over this internet connectivity, which may not be the very best, sending you this message, I hope that you will be able to get inspired by the great opportunities that Indonesia has based on the experiences that countries comparable to you have been gone through. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Many wheels have been invented. But what we have to do is we have to take the small cases and the small examples of the tens of thousands of hectares and turn it into the millions of hectares. And if there's one country that has the potential to do that, it is without any doubt Indonesia. I wish you good luck with your event. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much indeed, Gunter. I know you can't hear me, but we enjoyed your presentation very much. We're going to have from the Blue Economy Foundation, Pak Yusuf is going to be answering questions, and we have a couple of questions already been sent to us, which we're going to ask Pak Gunter to answer in a written format, which is good. Now, I know that our third speaker had a personal mission this morning. I'm not sure if she has arrived. Can somebody tell me if she has?
I'm here.
Fantastic. So I am now able to introduce you, which is exactly my role. Let me find where your CV has gone. Good morning and welcome. First of all, let's just go back for a second to what Gunter was talking about. He raised such a huge amount of points there that, look, I welcome all the questions, but to try and find a way of asking questions to somebody who knows his subject so well and has them all so neatly organized, I'm looking forward to hearing those questions. Really very well argued, but let's hear what you've got to say about Gunter's theories and the blue economy. Now we can go on to Sarah, Ibu Sarah Sadika. Good morning.
Good morning.
Deputy of Strategy and Policy Development at National Public Procurement Agency. She has accumulated over 25 years of experience in business climate, international affairs, human capital, and information system development in the field of public procurement. Obviously, a very important factor in Indonesia, where public procurement has come under the microscope on many levels. We've got an expert to tell us all about it. Ibu Sarah is currently the Deputy Chairman for Strategy and Policy Development of National Public Procurement Agency, the LKPP, Indonesia. She experienced in developing, she's got a lot of experience here in public-private partnership. She's also been part of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership and Free Trade. She's experienced in developing electronic procurement system, which is the way we're looking at things now to make them visible, which include e-tendering. So with that experience and the great importance of public procurement becoming transparent, efficient, and all of the other key words, over to you, Ibu Sarah, to take us on your journey. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Pak. I have a PPT to share. Is there anyone can help me to operate, or I will operate by myself?
They're going to do it.
Okay, good. Okay, let's start with this. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Mr. Spears, the moderators. Very good morning to all colleagues, panelists, and participants. Thank you for a precious opportunity to share procurement perspective on the issue of green procurement. Green procurement is always one of interesting topic in procurement policy, And in fact, we started discussing this issue in depth in 2009, 2010, when National Public Procurement Agency included this issue into Presidential Regulation number 10, year 2010, concerning government procurement. The basic idea and the principle of green procurement is actually in line with one of procurement principle, which is value for money. National Public Procurement Agency emphasized to our procurement specialists across the nation the importance to think about value for money. Procurement specialists should think and consider the concept of value for money since in the very beginning of procurement process. Since procurement planning, when they making procurement documents, then when they do the analyzing procurement documents and making final procurement decisions to select the winner of competition or the contract award. Learning from international procurement practices and other countries' experience, the government views that the issue of green procurement will be completed with combining the aspect of social and also economy. So this combination is the essence of sustainable public procurement, or SPP. And this morning, I am very happy I can share to you the concept of SPP, the implementations, and all the problems that we face with. The government sees that the procurement is not about having goods or services as a result of a very robust or healthy competition solely, but the goods and services that the government needs should be considered and respect the aspect of environment, social, and also economy. We can see these aspects accommodate in presidential regulation in 2010, 2018, and the current regulation, Presidential Regulation number 12, year 2021, about government procurement. So I think that's a brief background of SPP, and let's start with the presentation about progress, problems, and strategy of SPP. This slide would like to show the agenda or framework of our presentation, which divided into first, we can see SPP from procurement regulation perspective, then from business process or procurement process point of view, then from human resources, which is from users or government procurement specialists, and from the angle of private or businesses. Then the next issue would be the challenge and the opportunity, and finally the strategy of SPP that I do think it needs to be seriously improved with more collaboration within government and government with private or businesses. The next slide, please. This slide shows regulatory framework for SPP. Basically, SPP regulate in presidential regulation, and as you can see, several articles regulate and order to procurement specialists to consider thinking and formulating SPP since in the very beginning of procurement process, such as formulating the technical specification, as mentioned in Article 19. To assist procurement specialists in conducting procurement process, National Public Procurement Agency issued Chairman Circular Letter number 14, year 2020. The Chairman Circular Letter is actually a list of green products or product of green industry that ready to be selected by the procurement specialist. So the idea is when procurement specialists would like to plan a procurement, their first steps usually would be seeking information and doing a market research, whether the goods or the services that they need already in the market. What is the expected? What is the price? Who is the suppliers? How the competition and so on. So the list of green product or green industry which formulate in NPPA chairman circular letter will help them to start their market research. Therefore, we do expect collaboration with Ministry of Environment or any other institution, relevant institution, whom will provide more information about green products or green industry. Next slide, please. This slide demonstrates the definition of SPP and how presidential regulation accommodate the aspect of environment, social, and economy. As we can see that the aspect of environment is regulated in Presidential Regulation Article 68 and also Chairman Circular Letter. The aspect of social will include the issue of empowerment of SMEs or local communities or businesses. And the aspects of economy showed by cost of producing goods through the goods life cycle, or in bahasa Indonesia we call biaya produksi barang sepanjang usia barang tersebut. The next slide, please. This slide shows that mandate to implement SPP address for 3 different groups, which are, the first group is budget holder. We call PA or KPA, budget holder who usually minister, or Secretary General, SecGen, or Director General, DG or Dirjen. They has to consider SPP when they start making budget planning. So since in the very, very beginning of the process, which is the budget, they have to think and consider about the SPP. The second group is officer who make a commitment. We call the PPK. PPK should seek information and consider SPP when PPK make technical specifications. And the last group is procurement working group, or we call POCJA. And the POCJA should consider SPP when POCJA formulates procurement documents. So basically, you will see that in every level of procurement process and each of procurement organ, the importance and need of SPP has been emphasized. The next slide, please. This slide would like to show and explain the Chairman NPPA circular letter. As we can see that the circular letter actually adopt Ministry of Environment regulations that relate to eco-label photocopy papers, stationery, and SVLK wood furniture. Next slide, please. Now we come to the part of opportunity and challenge. This slide would like to tell you the volume of government procurement, which is quite big, about 50% of government spending itself, atau sekitar 50% dari nilai belanja pemerintah. What I would like to tell you is, first, let's see that the government procurement is a powerful instrument. It can be used as a tool to achieve government agenda or priority policy such as SPP. Therefore, we can always use government procurement to implement the agenda of SPP. Second, volume of government procurement can be also seen as a market, an opportunity to suppliers to participate in government procurement. The market is wide open to everyone who would like to join the government procurement, especially for the suppliers of SPP. Suppliers who never been involved in government procurement would like to learn government procurement. We welcome you at any time. You can open the vendor directory application in our website. Suppliers are always able to learn procurement regulation, getting procurement information, even training, seminars, or share experience forums. NPPA also work together with development partners like ADB or UNDP and other development partners to provide business seminars to open the opportunity to our national business to work with development partners. The next slide, please. Next slide. This slide shows data that we collect from our system, from our e-procurement planning, from e-catalog, from BELA systems. The data would like to describe the opportunity to implement SPP. As we can see in table 1, government always spend in office stationery such as papers, furniture, and office supplies. Quite a lot of package and budget spent to those categories, as we can see here, about 177,000 packages. And in 2021, and more than 2,000 billion rupiah spent for paper, furniture, and office supplies. So this is quite huge opportunity for the suppliers to involve in government procurement, especially in the case of SPP. The table 2 tells you, based on our system, e-catalog system and other systems, government spends more than 148 billion rupiah in wooden furniture during 2020 to 2021. You can also see who is the suppliers, and you can also see very few suppliers. It means huge opportunity to other suppliers to participate in government procurement, particularly as the SPP suppliers. And table 3 would like also to show data that we collect from other systems, which is BELA systems. So next slide, please. This slide would like to show you about the challenge that we faced so far. Let's start with the first challenge, which is the awareness. Even though government procurement mandate SPP since 2010, however, we monitor that the awareness of SPP is still low. So many procurement specialists are thinking twice before they make decision to buy green product that usually much more expensive compared than others. The perspective of auditors is also influence how procurement specialists work and make decisions. Aside from the reality that the variety and specification of green products are sometimes not quite matched with what the governments need. The second problems or the second issue would be the change in mindset or shifting the paradigm. We need to consider to our procurement specialists to think more and more value for money needed to be promoted, particularly in our experience so far, to junior auditors, to law authorities such as attorneys or police officers. This is very critical and very important. The issue number 3, which is the high cost investment, just you might be aware that the issues refers to the more cost of investment, of course, because there is additional cost that related to certification and also the eco-label. So this is also something that we found when we do the monitoring. The issue number 4, the industry readiness. The level of industry readiness in many different sectors are relatively low. Lack of initiative to produce green product due to several obstacles such as lack of knowledge, perhaps capital, as well as concern of mismatch, and the market is not ready to buy the product. This is also the problem that we face so far. The last one, the last problem or the last challenge is the unbalanced market condition will harm the domestic industry because foreign products are relatively easy to enter the market and to meet the government needs. Meanwhile, domestic industry are struggling to start the investment and productions. Next slide, please. This slide would like to present how NPPA try to overcome the challenge, which are first, We do the strengthening and increasing the awareness to all related parties and authorities. And second, NPPA is working on SPP implementation or guidelines to ease the procurement business process. Third one, doing the collaboration, working together with Ministry of Environment or any other relevant sectors to generate information of SPP products and services to meet government needs. And the last is conducting pilot monitoring and evaluation of SPP policy and guidelines. Next slide, please. Finally, we come into end of presentation. This slide explains NPPA's strategy to implement SPP. There are 4 different issues need to be orchestrated. First, LKPP will enrich the regulation and guidance to ease procurement procedures or even provide information about SPP market. It is very useful and helpful for procurement specialists to start their procurement planning. NPPA always open working and collaboration with other ministries and institutions to develop the regulation or the market information. This is very, very important and also helpful for our procurement specialists. The second issue and the third strategy are talking about human, procurement specialists, and also businesses. As you might be aware, there are thousands of government procurement specialists across the nation, and they work in 617 procurement services units in central and local level. All of them need to be educated and convinced about the SPP. Once they convince and trust the market and the business process, we can see huge progress, huge changes in SPP implementation. I personally do believe that they are one of key success of SPP implementation in Indonesia. Businesses need to be also encouraged to participate. Government needs to provide incentive to attract business in SPP goods and services. The last strategy is government procurement continuously provide procurement system such as e-catalog, e-tendering, BELA procurement in order to ease and simplify SPP product and services listed. The system is aimed to open widely opportunity to suppliers, particularly SPP suppliers, to participate in government procurement. Next slide. I will stop here. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you, Mr. Spears.
Thank you indeed, Ibu Sarah. That's an eye-opener, I have to say. The whole system of government procurement laid out for us there, very complicated, very well argued, very comprehensive, and a lot of questions already coming in as how does it really all work? Does it work? It's very nice to have these regulations, but is it all going to work? Look, we've had 3 presentations. We're supposed to have 4 today, but 3 is more than enough to start us off on some very interesting questions. But first of all, I'd like to thank our 3 distinguished and expert presenters. Ibu Sarah was the last with an extraordinary background and experience. We had Pak Karyanto, who we know is dedicated to his praise and pro group, and is going to have quite a number of questions coming towards him as well. Now we're joined by Pak Yusuf from the Blue Economy. Welcome, Pak Yusuf. I don't have very many details about you, apart from the fact if you're working with the Blue Economy Foundation, you must be pretty good at this, because I'm sure that Pak Guntur will have recruited people of a similar experience and mindset to himself. Welcome. Now, we've got quite a lot of questions coming in already. So we're going to spend a little bit of time doing this, but I'd like to do it one by one, not the old 3-question system. So we have 1 question to 1 person, and we move on from there. I'll have a quick look and see if there's any specifically for Carianto already. I haven't seen one, but we have lots of them. First one from Eddie Esquanto Willoso. Carianto, in one of your slides, you showed that 85% of companies have strong willingness to engage in the circular economy. Is that in Indonesia or all around the world? How do we know 85% of companies show willingness to engage? And what is willingness, by the way? Is that started or is it just good intentions?
Yeah. Okay, so thank you. So basically, this is the data, which is, I think, always good that we have the data. We always use research as our baseline. This is the data actually taken from the Bappenas research, working together with Denmark and also UNEP. It is available in the website. You can easily download. But I think this data, because I just checked, because I read your questions and I checked two other research, which is done by C Circular, working together also with Food Industry Asia and also with UNEP. Actually, from the numbers of company being interviewed, from the Bappenas, it was 57, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, the trend is pretty similar, which is around 80%. 80% actually they are willing to engage on the circular economy topic. But when I look at the C Circular UNEP data, FIA, Food Industry Asia, actually only 24 that from those who really wants to engage, only 24, they have the target, they have kind of ambitions, and also they communicate. So you see that there is an intention, but what we need to do is how we convert the intentions to actions. So this is actually the homework that we have to do together from the association as well as from the government, to have kind of a dialogue with them, because it is always good that, okay, they have the intention, so means that they understand the topic, and then now how to convert into the actionable.
Very good point, Carianto. But whose job is that? This is one of the, it's not Praise's job. Your private company is trying to do your own project. You just mentioned the government, but part of the problem with this whole circular economy is it's divided up between so many different sectors in the government. And who is in charge of getting private sector engagement? In your experience and over the last few years, who do you think it should be? We've got Bappenas involved, we've got the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, we've got finance. Who's in charge here? Who do you think should be in charge to make it efficient?
Yeah, so I will share our real experience as well. So means that we have so many government agencies involved in this topic from many different ministry. To be honest, also for us, connecting with the government is also quite challenging to really understand who we should connect on the certain topic. But I think in this case, when we are talking about this circular economy, actually this is really cross ministries. But there are few ministry which is really drive in the driving seat, I would say, for this topic, which should be the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and the Ministry of Industry, because it is related to the growth of green industry, I would say. And then the Ministry of Finance, because this is related also to the financing scheme. And actually, to be honest, with some other ministry. But back to your questions on who should actually, quote unquote, educate industry, bring them on board. I think first thing first, it should be under the government is really play a significant role because government establish kind of regulations, and then they are able to embrace the industry. But the thing is that from the industry, but the government needs to understand the industry needs, because at the end, if you want to embrace industry, I think not only industry, if you want to embrace any organizations, then we need to make sure that they understand, and then what does it mean for them, why they have to engage, etc. and so forth. So this is something that I think the government has to understand. It's not just by imposing the regulation is going to work. I'm not pretty sure it's going to work if it's just imposing the regulation without really understanding, the needs of industry, why they have to embrace, what is the benefit for them, things like that.
We know that from experience, Pak Karyanto, that regulations and implementation are far distant relatives. I'm going to just follow up this with, just to finish this off, is there possibly a role for a new ministry of the circular economy and sustainability which encompasses all the others, or is that too far-fetched? And secondly, where does CADIN come in all of this? Are they not the body that are supposed to come between the government and industry?
Back to your questions about the new ministry, or what you mentioned before?
Yeah, but look, we've got so many ministries. Why don't we make a new one, right? Which brings all the circular economy and sustainability under one roof, so we don't have people going into 5, 6, 7 different agencies.
And I have, to be honest, I have no idea on whether having the new ministry is the best approach. But what I can see, because I read also the publication from the Bappenas to put the circular economy as part of Jakstranas in this case. I think Bappenas also play very important role as well to put a reference, as a baseline or as a guideline for other ministries. I think Bappenas also play very important role here. They have some data, some reference, what we need to achieve, what we need to do. But of course, implementation is something else. But I think Bappenas can also play very, very important role here.
Good.
And then CADIN, of course, at the end, for us, PRES is just a tiny organization. We are part of the bigger organization like GAPMI, or we are part of CADIN, of course. But I think now, to my understanding as well, CADIN has the stream on sustainability. They are more and more active on this topic. We have some discussion dialogue with them as well to really push together the sustainability agenda as part of industry agenda.
Yeah, we have to keep them involved. But Yusuf, welcome. You've got some questions aimed at the Blue Economy Foundation. To Gunter and yourself, I don't know if you're able to read them on the screen, but can you answer? I know Gunter is going to answer in writing, but there's a very interesting question. You also mentioned how financing can generate more value. How can financing support the implementation of green procurement and supply chain in Indonesia? That's a really complicated question. But obviously, we're relating this whole thing about financing and making things more efficient to making the green procurement and supply chain work. Any thoughts on that?
I think, first, thank you, Spears, for the introduction. Actually, I'm here not to answer the question on behalf of Prof. Gunter Pauli, but I'll try to answer question addressed to Prof. Gunter. I'm Yusuf from Indonesia's Blue Economy Foundation. For that particular question, I think I may not be able to answer, Pak, so I will leave to Prof. Gunter Pauli to offer his opinion later on, Pak, maybe in written.
Okay, then perhaps you can introduce us to the role of the Blue Economy Foundation in Indonesia, just a very brief overview so we know what you are doing here. That would be very useful.
Okay, actually, in Blue Economy Indonesia, we are the proponent, so to say, of Blue Economy concept, which, let's say, the term of Blue Economy. We know there are two definitions of Blue Economy. First, the one which is coined by Prof. Gunter Pauli, so to say, which is closely related to circular economy, in my opinion. And the other one is the blue economy, which actually is the ocean economy, as we all know. In Indonesia, we are the proponents, so to say, of Prof. Gunter Pauli's blue economy. So we are trying to introduce the concept of blue economy, circular economy, or some say a zero emission economy to Indonesia, how to increase the value or to create a new business model which can cascade the value of a business. Maybe I would also like to address the main theme of this forum a bit. If you look at the main theme of this forum towards smart and sustainable cities through circular economy, building resilience during COVID-19 recovery, I think we talk a little bit more about post-disaster recovery right now, so to say, rather than resilience to COVID-19 pandemic itself. But how green procurement can increase resilience in the future? If we talk about green procurement and green supply chain, it means we aim to have least possible harmful effects to the environment. For example, green procurement can help reduce greenhouse gases emissions, which translate to less climate hazard, climate-related natural hazards. As we all know also, around 15% of rural and urban area in Indonesia are located on the coastal area. And also about 60% of all Indonesians live in coastal and low-lying coastal areas. So climate change is adding a new dimension to the coastal hazard dynamic. The possibility for more frequent and more intense storms, higher sea levels, and also more coastal erosion. So green procurement and green supply chain, in my opinion, might not necessarily increase or directly increase the resilience of the community, but it will reduce the number of natural hazards occurrences. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, that's a very good explanation of where you're at the moment. There may be some more specific questions to you coming. We'll welcome them from our many people who are out there. 225 people listening at the moment. If you've got questions for Pak Yusuf and the Blue Economy Foundation in Indonesia, please type them in. Ibu Sarah, I'm back to you. The status of SPP implementation in Indonesia, how many percent government spending has been carried out through this system? Why is the question coming from Pak Eddie Iswanto Willoso? Why private industry doesn't seem to be interested in this scheme? Or maybe they don't know enough about it yet. Suppliers may not be interested if there's no interesting incentives, but the incentive for business is supplying at a reasonable price and making a reasonable profit, is it not? Do you think that private industry has gotten a grip of how to use the government incentive, the government procurement system? Have you got enough people on your list?
Well, okay. Thank you, Pak Spears. So let me start with how many percent from the government spending, if I'm not mistaken. The data I showed in slides, I forget number slides, but basically the data shows us that the possibility to have more and more SPP product is quite huge opportunity. I cannot say how many percent because the data itself in 2020 and also 2021 shows that about here in the slide number 8, there are a lot of opportunity. About 2,000 billion rupiah spent in 2021 only for furniture, office supplies, or papers. So I think this is quite a huge and big market for that. So that's the first question. The second, why it is not interested for the businesses, because just like what I explained previously. First one, because there are no, I must say, incentive, a very good incentive for the businesses. why the SPP product is usually expensive just because the cost of productions plus tax, making the cost is very high. And as a government procurement, our perspective, even though we say many times to our procurement specialists that our principles is about value for money, but they kind of, afraid or thinking twice that they have to choose something more expensive compared than similar products. So I think this is also creating problems in a government side. It means that if industry would like to invest or making something SPP products, and the price is quite expensive compared than similar products, the industry doesn't very sure that the government procurement market would buy that because of that perspective. So that's why I propose that we have to making more awareness and also shifting the paradigm. We are not only making like a procurement process with the cheapest one, but now we think about more value for money. Then of course, we need also to have some assistance from our colleagues in Attorney General or the auditor's office, because when the auditor comes to the procurement specialist, they do some audits. The first questions would be to the procurement specialist is why your process to select these products much more expensive compared than the similar products. And this is quite difficult, to answer and also to explain to the junior auditors because of perhaps their perspective itself. So, a lot of issues actually in our perspective, in internal government perspective, and also in procurement specialists, in encouragement, they don't want to select or to select products with a very high expensive products, creating that the industry doesn't want to have the investment because they don't sure that the market is ready for them. So this is one of the issues that I also explain in the presentations.
I think you've hit a fantastic point there. Who understands the life cycle value of a product or a service? And how do you put that into an accounting system? I'll tell you a very simple and wonderful example I've used many times. I have a pair of shoes my father gave me 70 years ago. And they are in perfect condition because they were made of great leather, beautifully made by English bootmakers. And they're as good today as they were of 70 years ago. How many products last for 70 years? Your price per year is fantastic. If you make something which lasts for 6 months, your price per year is doubled already. So government auditors, of course, really aren't qualified to do life cycle analysis. So it's really very difficult for you to prove like for like, apples for apples. And I really sympathize with that. And that's part of the problem with this whole green supply chain, is that the best things cost more and they last longer. And all of those arguments come into place. The second point that fits in with that is that, this budget holder, you were saying the budgets are set by people who aren't necessarily analyzing on that basis, right? They say, we have a need you have to satisfy. And do they now have a green list requirement that they have to satisfy before they get the budget approved? Is that already in place?
Yes, Pa. So that's what I mentioned about the chairman's circular letter. Actually, the circular letter. Yes, it is in place. It is already in place, and it is accommodate and adopt actually what the Ministry of Environment lists of green products or the green industry. Why we need that kind of circular letter? Because our procurement specialists need the guidance. They need to see whether let's say these products, it is already in the market. They also a part of SPP, so they can have more and more information. But when we only focus to procurement specialists, my personal opinion, it is quite late. Compare then if we push and also talk to our budget holder, because they are higher, much higher than the procurement specialists, and they also having responsibility to make a budget or to propose a budget. So this is actually the thing or the organs that we need to approach first, because they actually the one who will decide whether this is what we need, and also whether this is also can be filled by the SPP later. So that's why government procurement address all of these three levels and also three organs.
Ibu Sarah, does that apply down through the municipalities, Kota Madya and Kabupatens as well, or are there different systems in place there as well? That was another earlier question.
I think we are lucky, Pak, because our procurement regulations and also all the procurement technical guidance or manuals, only one from the NPPA and applied across the nation.
Okay.
So only one single procurement process. So it means that our procurement specialists, if they are in a local, they use this kind of regulations.
That's very good. And that's going to make a lot of people happy, because so many people think it's okay for the central government to say something, but then the Kabupatens and the Kota Madhyas just do what they want themselves. So that's very good. But Karyanto, back to you. There's a very good question here from Nietzsche Evandani. The growth of purchasing activities through e-commerce and marketplace, which we've all seen huge amount of increase over the COVID pandemic, has led to an increase in the use of plastic packaging. We know that, and bubble wrap and all of the Go packages and the Grab packages and all of that stuff. How do we deal with this challenge in developing eco-friendly and sustainable packaging for the supply chain? Well, it's not necessarily your problem, but it's a lot of the products which are sent through this e-commerce do come from your members or are part of the packages that go out. Have your members addressed this? Have you said, I know that one analysis had 9 plastic bags in the average food delivery. Not really a great thing during this period. Have you managed to address that?
Yeah, yeah. I think especially because of COVID, I think we all realized that the growth of e-commerce and also online food order is increased significantly. Which is resulting the additional packaging, which is mostly coming from the plastic, like you mentioned, bubble wrap and others, is also increased significantly as well. So of course, we as a press, we haven't discussed, with the e-commerce industry for time being, but I think I can give our perspective on this one. I think first thing first. This is something that we cannot avoid for time being. But the thing is that what we need to think how to to innovate on having kind of alternative or maybe the different business model on reducing the use of this kind of packaging or applying the reuse model. But I know this is not something which is overnight that we can do. So this is the homework. This is something that we have to think together on alternative delivery system. Now, what we need to address is the existing one. For our knowledge, basically this kind of packaging is something which is recyclable. This is flexible. This is monolayer. This is something that can be recycled. The problem is that, when it is happening in the urban area, like in the city, where the surface of the waste, it is pretty okay, I would say, comparing to the rural area. When you, I would say, dispose this kind of a bubble wrap, normally it will go to the stream of the collection, whether it will go to the waste bank, perhaps it is flash, but it will go through the informal sector. Basically, this kind of product can be recycled. Okay, this is something that we should understand. That the challenge, of course, the infrastructure on the collection, it is very low. It is still lacking here. So therefore, what we can do, this is something that also PRAISE and also iPro is doing for the time being, is to help government on building the infrastructure on the collections. There are many already infrastructures, to be frank with you, like the TPS3R and some others, but it is not really functioning. From the research, I think only 10% of the TPS3R is working. So what we are doing is how to help this kind of community-based collections, TPS3R, for example, to fully functioning, which is already proven in some of our pilot. This is something that we have to push together. We as industry, we have I would say we should play also our part to help and support government on this part. So, I mean, this is something that perhaps we can have some conversation also with the e-commerce, how to collectively support, the collection of this flexible packaging.
I think that's a good idea. And as the comment was made earlier, replacing plastic with paper doesn't necessarily help if the paper itself, first of all, is polluted by food and can't be recycled. And secondly, where did the paper come from? I mean, it may be, it's an endless question which needs experts all the time. Now, we're about to run out of time. Before we go, I need to go back to Pak Yusuf for the question from Ibu Ati Yuniawati, who's saying, what are the real initiatives and projects that have been put into practice by the Blue Economy Foundation? But Yusuf, if you can keep that really aligned to what we're talking about today, if you can, the green supply chain, green procurement, do you have anything specific that you can bring to us on that line? That would be most kind.
Okay, thank you, Pak. I think I will just write down the link to the websites of ZERI initiative from Prof. Gunter Paulis, and also the link to our website of Indonesia Blue Economy Foundation, which displays some of the projects that we have done in Indonesia and also for Prof. Gunter Pauli worldwide.
Good idea.
Spares.
Good idea. Then they can go and do their own research and join the Blue Economy Foundation Indonesia and make things happen. Right, Pak Yusuf? Don't just look at the website. Join in and help. Yes, I'm afraid we're going to run out of time now. I'd like to keep a tight timetable so that our moderator is able to move on to the next session. What we've had today was, so far, has been really quite an extraordinary introduction by Ibu Anani from the Department of Environment and Forestry, who's looking at a very big picture. We had our Virginia's, you're quite right, it's quite difficult to pronounce, Sinkevicius from the EU coming to speak to us as well, and another keynote speech. Pak Gembong from the ITB alumni also spoke, and Ibu Masyita Kristalin from the Ministry of Finance, which I'm very pleased that the Ministry of Finance is taking this leading and active role in this, because that's where a lot of this begins and ends. If they don't understand the imperatives of procurement and the way in which the circular economy works and facilitate it, we're going to be in a lot more difficulty. But they seem to be right up there, which is fantastic. The speakers which I had the pleasure of having are still on the screen there. Ibu Sarah, Pak Karyanto, and Pak Pauli, but he's Gunter Pauli, but he is off in another part of the world. But we had Pak Yusuf very kindly joining in to to answer some questions. I'm going to pass back to our learned and excellent MC, who is going to take you on to the next session. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. We've learned a lot about the green procurement and green supply chain. Not nearly enough, to be honest, but we've started by opening up some of the questions, looking at some of the answers already in place. I'm very impressed with the government's approach to this. Very well done to Ibu Sarah. Fantastic initiative by Praise and iPro, and Blue Economy, keep it going. Thank you very much to all of you, and back to Amelia, who is going to take us into the next session. Thank you very much indeed for being with us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alistair. Every single session for you as a moderator has always been very interactive. Thank you so much for excellently moderating the session. We would also like to thank our speakers for the excellent discussions and input. Green purchasing can indeed bring important benefits for its practitioners, just as our speakers have emphasized. And risk management, eco-efficiency, stronger supplier relationships, as well as improvements in environmental performance, just as a start. Green procurement as well as green supply chain can also help an enterprise economically as well as line its environmental impacts, and also help organizations improve their efficiency as well as gain competitive advantage. So once again, everyone, thank you very much. And as the day is still young, we still have many more speakers to share their insights with all of us. And together, we're going to pick their brains. So let us have a short break around 15 minutes time, and we'll come back at 11:35 Jakarta time. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Economic Forum tahun 2017 menyebutkan 620.000 ton sampah plastik mencemari perairan Indonesia yang disebabkan oleh pengelolaan sampah kurang tepat. Brace hadir sebagai asosiasi yang dibentuk pada tahun 2010 dan berkomitmen untuk menemukan solusi pengelolaan sampah kemasan yang berkelanjutan. Packaging Recovery Organization atau PRO telah diluncurkan di Indonesia pada tanggal 25 Agustus 2020. Program ini merupakan respon industri dalam menghadapi tantangan pengelolaan sampah kemasan di Indonesia. Brace melalui PRO hadir dengan melibatkan beragam pihak seperti pemerintah, pelaku industri, konsumen, serta sektor formal dan informal dalam pengelolaan sampah kemasan.
Bapak atau dari